Hey, shalom, shalom, shalom. Yashar Allah, Shabbat Nachamia, Ak Nachamia from Nations and Kings and Priests, No Cap County section. We back at you again, right? With another Shabbat night class. All right, but before I get into this, let me go ahead and turn my lighting on. Give me 1 second, Baba Kushar, and I'll be right back. All right, Salakliah for that. All praises to the Most High, the water Rabbah, meaning thank you greatly, or thank you so much for everybody that's tuning in for this Friday night, Friday Shabbat, or Friday afternoon class, right? Before we get into it, man, go ahead, like, comment, subscribe on the Nations and Kings and Priests channel, on the No Cap Cali Classroom channel. And if you're seeing this on any other streaming platforms, go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, and go ahead and share the channel so we can further push the ministry in Yahweh Bashim, Yahweh Shai, as the world knows as God or Jesus Christ, right? Go ahead and click that real quick. It only take a few seconds, double tap real quick, and we can go ahead and get into the class, right? So y'all see the title. Y'all see the title. It's a very controversial topic in the nation of Israel, But it's one thing that we got to understand, right? It's one thing that we have to understand is the milk. So let me go ahead and just start with this scripture real quick, right? Before we get into it, first off, I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, right? Giving thanks and all glory and praise to his name for giving us this day, for y'all to be able to sit and watch this class, for y'all to still be able to sit and breathe in the breath of life, right? So let's go ahead and just start with this, right? Let's get an introduction into the class real quick, right? And then I'm going to go to the New Testament to start it off with. So let me go ahead and pull the screen up and let's get into it. All right. So this is the book of First Peter, chapter 2, verse 2. This is a scripture that you should know, right? It says, as newborn babes, desire, keyword, desire the sincere milk of the word that ye may grow thereby. What is the milk? Right? What is the milk? Let's go to the book of Isaiah, chapter quick. Isaiah, the 28th chapter. Right? What is the milk? That's a question for the chat. What is the milk? We should know this as brothers that's been in the faith for a minute. They should know what the milk is. Right? The book of Isaiah, chapter 28, verses 9 through 10, it reads, whom shall he teach knowledge? And whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast. Right? For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little, right? What is the milk? What do you think the milk is? And how do you grow thereby? Because the Most High is clearly telling us that that's who he's going to teach, the ones that have been weaned from the milk, right? The law. The law is the milk, right? You don't understand Paul by not knowing the Old Testament. You don't understand Christ by not knowing the Old Testament, right? And being edified therein. So when we're talking about Ruth, is she a Moabitess? Is she an Israelite? Which one, right? We have to look into the scriptures and examine, and we got to understand that the law is going to be your foundation with this. The law is going to be your foundation. Remember this. It's very important because we're going to get into the laws. We're going to get into maps, right? So with that being said, let me go ahead and pull up. Let's go to the book of Ruth, man. Let's go ahead and get it started. Let's go ahead and get it started. I know I've been having this class. I'm supposed to have been doing this class for a few weeks, but I needed to make sure that I had everything right on this class to be able to, so it could be the edifying to the viewers, right? But now, pay attention to when we're reading and we're going through the book of Ruth. Pay attention to the words. Pay attention to the context, right? So we're going to start. in the book of Ruth, chapter 1. We're going to read verses 1 through 5. All right. This is the book of Ruth, chapter 1, starting at verse 1. It reads, "Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled." Remember that. When the judges ruled, this is the Ruth was living, and all this is taking place was during when Israel had judges over them, right? So when you read the book of Judges, remember that Ruth was living during that time. Elimelech was living during that time. Milan, Chilion, Naomi, they were all living during that time, right? Ruth chapter 1, verse 1. "Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country," right? The country of Moab. Pay attention to this word country, right? You got different definitions of country. For example, you got America. America as a whole, 50 states as a whole, is a country within itself. Then you have a country defined as the outskirts of major cities. So it's very important to know when you look up the definition of country, the very first definition you're going to see is going to outline the most used definition, which is always referring to places outside of major cities. When it's talking about whole countries, whole nations, that is secondary. So it's very important for us to understand this when we get in the topic of Ruth, right? It says, "Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab," right? In the country of Moab. Let's continue reading. Next verse, verse 2. "And the name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi, and the name of his two sons Mahlon and Chilion, Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judah," right? They were Judites. "And they came into the country of Moab and continued there." So like I said, they're Judites. They're Ephrathites, right? "And they came into the country of Moab and continued there," right? So before I move on, let me go ahead and pull something up for you real quick. Let me go ahead and pull something up for you. So, right, you could go to the English dictionary and get this. You could go to the Hebrew and get it. So I'm just going to show you in the Hebrew real quick. So, I know a lot of people are gung-ho in the Hebrew, so on and so forth. So we're just going to go straight to the Hebrew, right? And I'm going to show you something real quick. I'm going to show you something, all right? Let me go ahead and get this set up really quick. Bear with me. All right. Let's go back to verse 1 really quick, right? And let's go to country, right? You can English dictionary, Hebrew, whatever you want to use. It's gonna say the same thing, right? Right. So this is the word country. Let me go back and make sure. Right. Country. Right. I ain't gonna pronounce it. We're gonna get straight to the point. Right. So you have biblical usages, meaning these are how they're used, and then you have the actual definition, Strong's definition of what it is. Right. So let's read the biblical usage. It says field, land, cultivated field, a home of wild beasts, plain, opposed to a mountain. Plain, a plain is a valley, right? Land opposed to sea, right? So when we're looking at, now let's look at the definition, right? It says from an unused root meaning to spread out, a field as flat, country, right? This is getting into the outskirts of major cities. So when we see the country of Moab, this is not the whole Moabite territory, right? It's talking about cities outside of countries outside of major cities. So let's get that understood, right? With that being said, let's go back to the book of Ruth and let's continue reading, right? Bear with me if I'm going too fast. If you need me to repeat something, put it in the chat. Be quick with it because it's a lot to go through right now. Right? So let me go ahead and pull back up the book of Ruth. If I'm going too fast, let me know. I'll slow down, right? It's the book of Ruth. Let's go to verse 3. We read verse 2 already. Ruth chapter 1, verse 3. It says, and Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left, and her 2 sons, right? Naomi's husband died, it's only her and her 2 sons. Verse 4. And they took them wives of the women of Moab, right? Pay attention to this. Woman of Moab. Woman of Moab. I'll say it again. Woman of Moab. Now I'm going to show you something. Let's go to the book of Isaiah real quick. There's a difference between the woman of Moab and there's a difference between the daughters, right? So let's read Ruth chapter 1, verse 4 again. And they took them wives of the woman of Moab. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other was Ruth. And they dwelled there about 10 years, right? Women of Moab. The words are very important when you're looking into when you're going into this teaching. Let's go to the book of Isaiah chapter 16 really quick. All right, let's just go straight to the point. Verse 2. Isaiah 16 and verse 2, it says, for it shall be that I'm going to start at verse 1. Isaiah chapter 16, verse 1. It says, send ye the lamb to the ruler of the land from Salah, that's a city in Edom, to the wilderness, unto the mount of the daughter of Zion. For it shall be that as a wandering bird cast out of the nest, so the daughters of Moab shall be as the fords of Arnon, right? So there is a difference between the daughters of Moab, meaning these are actual descendants of Moabite, daughters of Lot, sons of Lot. And then there's a difference between the women of Moab. There is a difference, right? Daughters of Moab are actually talking about direct line descendants. Woman of Moab is talking about women that are dwelling in that land, whether it's the plains of Moab or whether it's the whole landmass of Moab in a whole. Remember that, right? As we continue to go on, let's go to verse 5. And Mahlon and Chilion died also, both of them, and the woman was left of her 2 sons and her husband. So Naomi's husband and sons died, right? So this is important right here. This is important. Now, there's another point that we have to understand. Even though Israelites were dwelling in other lands, they were still referred to. They were still referred to the name based on where they sojourned, right? So if you had Israelites dwelling in Greece, they would be called Greeks, right? If you had Israelites dwelling in Moab, they will be called Moabites. We see that in the scripture. It's no different from Paul being called a Roman. So we see it throughout the scriptures. Israelites being called after titles of other nations, right? It was just something that was done because it was based on where they sojourned, right? So before we move on, we're going to pull up a map, right? We're going to pull up a map real quick. Bear with me. Right, so you see this? Can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me? All right, no sound. 1 second. All right, can y'all hear me? Put a 7 in the chat. Let me know if y'all can hear me or not. Let me know if y'all can hear me. Con? All right, Con, my mic died. So yeah. All right, Con, all praises. So let's go back to it. Let's start from the top. Deuteronomy chapter 2, right? Verses 8 through 9. It says, and when we pass by from our brethren, the children of Esau, which dwelt in Seir, through the way of the plain from Elath, and from Ezion Gaber, we turned and passed by the way of the wilderness of Moab, right? So when we were taking that journey from the Red Sea, passing Edom, right? I'm going to read it again. Deuteronomy chapter 2, verse 8. And when we passed by from our brethren, the children of Esau, which dwelt in Seir, you see this? Let me pull up a better map, right? Let me see if I got a better map up right now. No, that's the best one. From Mount Seir, which is somewhere in this region right here, it doesn't pull up, right? From dwelt in Seir through the way of the plain of Elath, right? Through the plain of Elath. What else does it say? And from Ezion Gaber, y'all see that? Ezion Gaber is right here, somewhere in this area, right? We turned and passed by the way of the wilderness of Moab, meaning they took the wilderness route. They took the outskirts, the wilderness route towards Moab, which is what you see on this map. When they got around this region, they bounced up, went out the outskirts of the way of the wilderness of Moab. You can see it right here. They went all the way around until they got, Moab. And we're going to continue to go. So pay attention. Deuteronomy chapter 2, verse 9. And the Lord said unto me, distress not the Moabites. So when we pass by the wilderness of Moab, when we're going towards Moab, after we compassed the land of Edom, this is what the Most High told us when we're getting close to the Moabites' land, which is this territory that you see right here from the Arnon River all the way to the Zered River, right? When we was coming and we taking this route right here, where you see this little purple line, the Most High told us this in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 9. He said, and the Lord said unto me, distress not the Moabites, neither contend with them in battle, for I will not give thee of their land for a possession. So he's telling us, don't even worry about them because I'm not giving you their land. Keep it pushing. Let's read on. Because I have given Ar unto the children of Lot for a possession, right? Where is Ar? Let's go back to the map. It's a city in Moab. Right here, right? Now, you got to take the maps with a grain of salt, but it's giving us an idea, on how to be able to determine if Ruth was a Moabitess or was she an Israelite, right? So we see by the King's Highway is the city of Ar. So when we come passing the land of Moab, we're not even, Most High telling us not even, don't even bother them, right? Don't even bother them. Y'all with me? Let me know if y'all with me, because I'm gonna move on. Right? Put a 7 in the chat real quick. Put a 7 in the chat so we can continue to move on. I want to make sure that y'all with me. If y'all need me to repeat anything, let me know. Babu Kasha. All right. Let's continue to go. We're going back to the book of Numbers. Right? But we're gonna go we're gonna read excuse me. We're gonna read Numbers. We're gonna go to Numbers chapter 21, verses 26 through 29. right? This is the book of Numbers, chapter 21, verses 26 through 29. It says, for Heshbon was the city of Sihon, the king of the Amorites. Now we're getting into what I mentioned earlier when I was showing you this map. This was Moabite territory after King Sihon had conquered the Moabites. Where you see Reuben right here, this was King Sihon's land. Matter of fact, let me get a better map up real quick for you. It's kind of small, but I'm gonna zoom in. Can y'all see that? Right. So this portion, there we go. This portion right here, where you see Kingdom of Sihon, right? This portion was King Sihon's land, Amorite land, after King Sihon defeated the Moabites. Initially, where you see Moab right here and King Sihon's land, this was all Moabite territory. We will get into that. The scriptures will bear this out, right? Let me pull this map back up. This, from this green border line, it says Reuben, but this was before Reuben, it was King Sihon's land. All this was Moabite territory before King Sihon, right? Let's go back to the book of Numbers. This is very important when we get into dealing with Ruth, right? Numbers chapter 21, verse 26. For Heshbon was the city of Sihon, the king of the Amorites, who had fought against the former king of Moab and taken all his land out of his hand, even unto Arnon, right? The Arnon River, right? Arnon was this border right here. So it's talking about the Jabbok River. You can't see it right here, but this is the Jabbok River line unto Arnon that King Sihon took, which was this. So Moab got that portion of their land snatched. Sihon wore them out, right? From Jabbok River border to the Arnon River border. Now under King Sihon's reign, as you could see, right? You see the Jabbok River right here. Where is it? Salakia. Right here, the Jabbok River unto Arnon. Right? Let's go back to Numbers. It says, Numbers 21, 26, for Heshbon was the city of Sihon, the king of the Amorites, who had fought against the former king of Moab and taken all his land out of his hand, even unto Arnon. Wherefore, they that spake in Proverbs say, come into Heshbon, let the city of Sihon be built and prepared. For there is a fire going out of Heshbon, a flame from the city of Sihon. It hath consumed Ar of Moab and the lords of the high places of Arnon. Going to show you that they was terrorizing the Moabites when they was taking this land. Right? It's very critical when we dealing with Ruth. Very critical when we dealing with Ruth. So continue to bear with me. Right? Numbers chapter 21, we standing there, we reading verses 21 through 23. So out there. Bear with me. Numbers chapter 21, verses 21 through 23. It reads, and Israel sent messengers unto Sihon. This is when King Sihon took that portion of Moabite territory before we got there, before we started to get close to the land of Moab, where the Most High told us to not distress them. So when we was close there, this is what we did. Numbers chapter 21, verse 21. It says, and Israel sent messengers unto Sihon, king of the Amorites, saying, let me pass through thy land. We will not turn into the fields or into the vineyards. We will not drink of the waters of the well, but we will go along by the king's highway until we pass thy borders. Where was the king's highway? Right? Let's go back to a map. So when we get in towards to Moabite territory right here, or King Sihon's territory right here, disregard Reuben right now. This is King Sihon's territory right here. But Moses said, Numbers 21:22. Let me pass through thy land. We will not turn into the fields or into the vineyards. We will not drink of the waters of the well, but we will go along by the king's highway until we pass thy borders. The king's highway is what you see right here, right? So we didn't go through Moabite territory. So we wanted to take this route, a straight shot. But what happened? Let's read. Verse 23. And Sihon would not suffer Israel to pass through his border. But Sihon gathered all his people together and went out against Israel into the wilderness, right? We were still in the wilderness because remember we took the outskirts. Let me pull up a map just so y'all can see. Right? Let me pull up a map just so y'all can see. Y'all see this? A better map. Let's go back to this one. Because we were still in the wilderness, right? This is where that battle happened between Sihon and Israel in the wilderness, right? Let's read Numbers again. Numbers 21:23. It says, and Sihon would not suffer Israel to pass through his border, but Sihon gathered all his people together and went out against Israel into the wilderness, and he came to Jahaz and fought against Israel, right? Which was right here, where you see the defeat of Sihon right here, where you see the swords of the red dot, Jahaz. This is where he battled us at in the wilderness. He wasn't trying to let us just pass through, right? So what happened? Let's find out what happened, what the Most High did to him for not letting us go through his land, right? So this is what we did, and what we about to read next is very, 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 very important to the topic of this class. Pay attention, right? Deuteronomy chapter 2, we're going to read verses 32 through 34. All right. Deuteronomy chapter 2, verses 32 through 34. What happened when King Sihon came and fought against us in the wilderness at Jahaz, right? This is what happened. Deuteronomy chapter 2, verses 32 through 34. Then Sihon came out against us, he and all his people. All his people, every single person in the kingdom of Sihon, every single person went to war with us. Every single one. There was nobody in that land. They all came out and fought against us. So when it says all means all. Every single person, every Amorite in that land. Then Sihon came out against us, he and all his people, to fight at Jahaz. And the Lord our God delivered him before us, and we smote him and his sons and all his people. Every single Amorite was exterminated. Every single one. There wasn't one Amorite to remain. Let's remember, let's pay attention to the words. Verse 33. And Yahweh our Elohim delivered him before us, and we smote him and his sons and all his people. There was no one left to remain. No one left. Annihilated. Verse 34. And we took all his cities at that time and utterly destroyed the men and the women and the little ones of every city. We left none to remain. Nobody was, every single Amorite was torched. So let's remember this. When the Most High is speaking to us, we have to pay attention to his words. There wasn't one Amorite left in that land. The Most High left them desolate. This is important when we're getting into the topic of Ruth. Right? Verse 34 from the top. And we took all his cities at that time and utterly destroyed the men and the women and the little ones of every city. We left none to remain. Right? So when you see this King Sihon's land right here, nobody dwelt in this region. From the Jabbok River right here all the way down to the Arnon, nobody was left to remain in this region. Nobody, right? Let's get that clear. Let's understand that, right? Numbers chapter 21, verse 24, right? Numbers chapter 21, verse 24, it says, and Israel smote him with the edge of the sword, talking about King Sihon, and possessed his land from Arnon unto Jabbok, even unto the children of Ammon, for the border of the children of Ammon was strong. So the Most High gave us that portion of land. In that portion of land, let me pull it up before I say it. So remember this, read this right here. And Israel smote him with the edge of the sword and possessed his land from Arnon unto Jabbok. When we read in Numbers, this same chapter, when it's talking about King Sihon and how he took it, he said they took the land even unto Arnon. So when we went to war with King Sihon, we took it from the same border, the same border that he took it from unto Arnon. We took it. It is now our land. And remember, no Amorite was there to remain. When we took over that land, it was all Israelites in there. All Israel. Right? So let's look at it. Let's look at a map. Let's go back to this map. So when we see the Jabbok River right here on this map, right? The Jabbok River is right here. Unto Arnon River is right here. Was all our land now once we defeated King Sihon. What do you see when you see from the Jabbok River to the Arnon River? What stands out? I'm going to show you what stands out. You see by Jazer, what does this say? It says the plains of Moab. When we went into the Hebrew and we were talking about the country, when Naomi, Elimelech, and their sons dwelt in the country of Moab, they went to the plains of Moab. Not this territory of Moab from Arnon to Zered. No, it was in the plains of Moab, the country of Moab, the country outskirts of major cities. This is where Naomi, Elimelech, Mahlon, Chilion, Orpah, Ruth was dwelling. Right? It's very important. Let me pull something up for you. Let me pull something up real quick. Let me pull this up. You see this? This is a map during the time of the judges, right? Because Ruth chapter 1 verse 1 said that this happened during the time, during the judges, right? So we could see, let's see something. Salaklia. From Salaklia. So Jabbok unto Arnon. Jabbok unto Arnon was all Israelite territory. And the plains of Moab were in this region. Right? Let me go back. Where is it? And the plains of Moab was in that region. Remember this. Let's continue. Y'all with me? All right. So let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 3. Deuteronomy chapter 3. We're going to read verse. All right. Deuteronomy chapter 3 and verse 8. It reads, "And we took at that time out of the hand of the two kings of the Amorites the land that was on this side Jordan from the river Arnon unto Mount Hermon." Remember this. These maps are important so you can know. Let's hop up to verse 3. It says, "So Yahweh our Elohim delivered into our hands Og also, the king of Bashan, and all his people, and we smote him until none was left to him remaining, even Og's land." Let me pull that up so you can see it. Even Og's land, the king of Bashan. Even this, when it said Mount Hermon, right? What did it say? Deuteronomy 3 and 8. "And we took at that time out of the hand of the two kings of the Amorites the land that was on this side Jordan from the river of Arnon unto Mount Hermon." Unto Mount Hermon. Let me pull this up. Right? From Arnon, which was down here, all the way up here. That's all Israel. It's all Israelite territory. And the plains of Moab was in our territory. Right? Let's remember this. Let's move on. Right? Deuteronomy chapter 3, verses 12 through 13. It says, "And this land which we possessed at that time from Aurora, which is by the river Arnon," right, "and half Mount Gilead, and the cities thereof, gave I unto the Reubenites." This is where now this map comes into a play. From Aurora and half Mount Gilead, which is getting up towards this area where Gad is at. All ours now, right? "And half Mount Gilead and the cities thereof gave I unto the Reubenites and to the Gadites." Verse 13, "And the rest of Gilead and all Bashan, being the kingdom of Og, gave I unto the half tribe of Manasseh, all the region of Argob, with all Bashan, which was called the land of giants." That's all. It's all ours now. From Arnon, right, all the way to Mount Hermon. It's all us. You see Manasseh, you see Gad, you see Reuben. It's all us now. None of them were left to remain. None of them. All Israelites in there. Let's get that clear. Right? The book of Numbers, the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 34. This is very important. I know y'all probably like, man, he ain't even got to Ruth yet. This all plays in to we need to understand the land masses first, so we can better understand if Ruth was Moab or if Ruth was an Israelite. We already see by going through the maps and the scriptures bearing them out during the time of the judges, that was all our land. There was nobody left to remain. So if Naomi and Elimelech and their two sons is going to the country of Moab, the plains of Moab, there wasn't no Amorite or there. It was all Israel. That should make a light bulb go off. It was all Israel, right? Think on that. Meditate on that. Deuteronomy chapter 34, and we're going to read verse 1. It reads, "And Moses went up from the plains of Moab." Why? Because this was now our land. "And Moses went up from the plains of Moab," which is the country of Moab, unto the mountain of Nebo, to the top of Pisgah, that is over against Jericho. And the Lord shewed him all the land of Gilead unto Dan. Let's pull up the map. He said that he went to the plains of Moab, which is in this area over here. It doesn't outline it on here, but when you look at the other maps, it's somewhere in this region over here. It says, and Moses went up from the plains of Moab unto the mountain of Nebo, this right here, and to the top of Pisgah. What did it say? To the top of Pisgah, he went there too, that is over against Jericho. Where's Jericho? Jericho in this area, against Jericho, right? So the Most High was showing him this land. He couldn't do it. Moses messed up and he couldn't go into the promised land. And he was buried, right? He was buried in the Reubenites' land, right? Y'all with me? All right, Numbers chapter 32, verse 33. Numbers chapter 32 and verse 33. It says, and Moses gave unto them, even to the children of Gad, and to the children of Reuben, and unto half the tribe of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, the kingdom of Sihon, king of the Amorites, and the kingdom of Og, king of Bashan, the land, with the cities thereof in the coasts, even the cities of the countries round about. Right? A Nachfa, I don't know who you is, but if you want to speak to me and you want to get into this topic, go ahead and email nocap144k@gmail.com. Again, nocap, NOKAP 144k@gmail.com. If you have a question, you can ask it there. We can get into it. We can get on a phone call, so on and so forth. All right. So Salaklia, let's get back to the class. So we know it outlined in Numbers 32:33, and Moses gave unto them, even to the children of Gad, and to the children of Reuben, and unto the half tribe of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, the kingdom of Sihon, king of the Amorites, all of that land. We annihilated all of them, not one to remain. And the kingdom of Og, king of Bashan, annihilated all of them, not one to remain. The land with the cities thereof in the coasts, the borders, even the cities of the country round about. All Israel. All Israel. Okay. Numbers chapter 22. Numbers chapter 22, verse 1. And then let me go ahead and get this other scripture up while I'm at it. All right. Numbers chapter 22 and verse 1. It says, and the children of Israel set forward and pitched in the plains of Moab on this side of Jordan by Jericho. The plains of Moab is the country of Moab. The plains of Moab is the country of Moab. That's why I showed you in the Hebrew where it says country, plain, which is a valley. The plains of Moab is the country of Moab. So when you go back and read Ruth chapter 1, verse 1, and it says that they sojourned in the country of Moab, they were in Reubenite territory, right, at that time. Reubenite territory. Hence, this is why they called her a Moabitess, right? The maps alone and the scriptures alone pertaining to the maps and the land masses we conquered already proves it, because there was no Amorite, there was no one in the kingdom of Bashan was left to remain. Everybody was annihilated. Everybody. It was all Israel there. So there's no way that they could have been dealing that Boaz, who was a righteous man, right, and our Messiah being a descendant of that line, married a damn Moabite. There's no way. And there's no scripture that anybody could possibly pull to try to prove that, because it's not in there. Right? So from there, we go into the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 34, and we're going to read verse 8. It says, and the children of Israel wept for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days. So the days of weeping and mourning for Moses was ended. Right? So we got to understand plains of Moab, which is the country of Moab. That's us. I'm showing you these scriptures because it's outlining that's where we were dwelling. So we're in our land dwelling there. Right? Let's go back to the book of Ruth. Let's go back to the book of Ruth. And we're going to read verse 1 again. Ruth chapter 1 and verse 1, it says, now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. I hope now that it's clear where the country of Moab at. I hope now it is clear where the country of Moab is. Plains of Moab by Jazer, right? Plains of Moab is in this area. They're in Reubenite territory. When it says when Naomi and her wife and his wife, when Naomi and her husband and her 2 sons came into the country of Moab, they're talking about the plains of Moab in Reubenite territory. That was our land, right? And even when you look at this map right here, it says the 12 tribes and the book of Judges. This was all our land. It's showing us all our land, right? So during the time of the judges, as Ruth 1 and 1 said, so during the time of the judges, this is all us. This is all us. And the plains of Moab is in this area right here. In this area. Right? So Salakli, I'm all the way up here in Gad, Salakli, in this area. In this area right here, plains of Moab, it's us. All right. So from there, we're gonna go drop down to verse. We're gonna read verses 3 and 7. It says, and Elimelech, Naomi's Salakli. Nah, I don't need that. All right. So now that we got the maps, what lands we were dwelling in, what is now, our land at that time, it was all Israel there. So when it says in Ruth chapter 1 and verse 5, or Salakli, in Ruth chapter 1 and verse 4, it says, and they took them wives of the women of Moab, the plains of Moab. Remember what I said, that even though Israel dwelt in other lands, they were still they were still called by name the place of that land because they sojourned there. So don't stumble over the word Moab when you see it, when you're reading Ruth. Ruth chapter 1 verse 4, and they took them wives of the woman of Moab. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name the other Ruth, and they dwelt there about 10 years. Remember, there's a difference between the women of Moab and there's a difference between the daughters of Moab. Complete difference. Do not misconstrue the two. Right? So now, that's one way you can deal with this topic. You can go to the lands and see how you know what lands we conquered. And then there's other things as well. We can go and prove the laws that was being kept between Ruth and Boaz, right? But before we get into that, we have to understand Boaz was a Judite. He was a Judite. If Ruth was a Moabite, Boaz would have clearly been in sin. Why? Because it's forbidden to marry outside of the nation of Israel. That itself should let you know that Ruth was not a Moabite by blood. She's an Israelite by blood. right? Let's go to the Ruth, the second chapter, right? How much time I'm on? 58. Ruth, the second chapter. We're going to read verses 1 through 3. Ruth chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. And Naomi had a kinsman of her husband's. Key word, kinsman. And Naomi had a kinsman of her husband. Remember, they came from Bethlehem, Judah. And Naomi had a kinsman of her husband's, a mighty man of wealth, of the family of Elimelech. And his name was Boaz. That was Elimelech's brother. A kinsman. Pay attention to this word, man. A kinsman. All right. Verse 2. And Ruth, the Moabitess, and said unto Naomi, let me now go to the field and glean ears of corn after him in whose sight I shall find grace. And she said unto her, go, my daughter. We got to remember, Naomi's 2 sons died. Naomi's husbands died. What do you think she had as possessions? She didn't have anything. This is the reason why she went back to Judah. Bethlehem, Judah. She didn't have anything. She was in a low estate. She was poor. We know how do I know that? Let me just go. Let me prove that. Let me prove that, right? Let me prove that real quick. Let me see. Right? Ruth chapter 1. I'm gonna start at verse 20. And she said unto them, call me not let me start at verse 19. So they too went until they came to Bethlehem, Naomi and Ruth. And it came to pass when they were come to Bethlehem that all the city was moved about them. And they said, is this Naomi? And she said unto them, call me not Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty hath dealt very bitterly with me. I went out full when they went to the plains of Moab, and Yahweh hath brought me home again empty. Naomi and Ruth, they were poor when they were going back to the Bethlehem, Judah. They didn't have anything. Why then call ye me Naomi, saying, seeing Yahweh hath testified against me, and the Almighty hath afflicted me? So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, with her, which returned out of the country of Moab, the plains of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem in the beginning of the barley harvest, right? So when we hear the beginning of the barley harvest, what was going on? Ruth chapter 2 and verse 2. And Ruth the Moabitess said unto Naomi, let me now go to the field and glean ears of corn after him in whose sight I shall find grace. And she said unto her, go, my daughter. Where do we see in the law when we have fields what we are supposed to do? I want to see if anybody remember. Right? I ain't gonna get into the gleaning right now, but I just want to see if y'all remember. Meditate on that. But I'm gonna go back to the point of it's forbidden to marry outside of Israel. So when we see kinsmen in Ruth the second chapter, it's very important that we really meditate on that. That Ruth was getting with a near kinsman. If she was a Moabite, Boaz would have been in sin. Deuteronomy chapter 7. Y'all know where I'm going. Deuteronomy chapter 7, man. Deuteronomy chapter 7, and we're going to read verses 1 through 4. When Yahweh, Salakli, share screen. When Yahweh thy God shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it, and hath cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites and the Girgashites, and the Amorites and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. And when Yahweh thy Elohim shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of Yahweh be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly. So we see, even when we're going into the promised land, that we were to make no covenant with anybody outside of the nation of Israel, or have our daughters or sons marry their daughters and sons. It was forbidden. So if Boaz was a righteous man and Hamashiach came from that same line, do you really think Boaz would have married a Moabite? It also said that he was a kinsman. How can a Moabite be kinsman to a Judite? How? So just so you know, if you're thinking, well, it doesn't say Moabite there, well, we'll go to it. So because we're gonna cover all avenues, right? Just in case somebody want to try to run and says it doesn't say Moabite there. Okay. First Kings chapter 11 and verse 1. But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites, of the nations concerning which Yahweh said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go into them. Moabites and Edomites is there. So if you don't see it in Deuteronomy 7, trust me, they include it. Neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love. That's where he was in at. Right? So I'm gonna keep answering the question. If Ruth was a Moabite, Boaz would have been in sin. Boaz would have been in sin. You think that the Most High wouldn't have did anything to him? The Most High would have did something to him, right? Look at Nehemiah. Look at Nehemiah chapter 13. It was forbidden for us to marry outside of our nation. So if she was a Moabite, Boaz was in sin. I'm gonna keep saying that. No, Nehemiah chapter 23, or slightly Nehemiah chapter 13, verses 23 through 27. It says, in those days also saw I Jews that had married wives of Ashdod, of Ammon, and of Moab. And their children spake half in the speech of Ashdod, and could not speak in the Jews' language, but according to the language of each people. And I contended with them, and cursed them, and smote certain of them, and plucked off their hair, and made them swear by God, saying, ye shall not give your daughters unto their sons, nor take their daughters unto your sons, or for yourselves. Did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these things? Yet among many nations was there no king like him, who was beloved of the Most High, and the Most High made him king over all Israel. Nevertheless, even him did outlandish woman cause to sin. Right? Verse 27, shall we then hearken unto you to do all this great evil? Boaz would have been an evil man if he was to marry a Moabite. To transgress against our God in marrying strange wives. Moabites is not keeping our laws. They're not. How can Boaz do the law of a kinsman if a Moabite is not a kinsman? Right? You know, so from there, let's go to the book of Ezra. Ezra chapter 9. Y'all with me still? I know it's a lot, but I'm not going to end this class until I gave y'all everything, right? So it might go over an hour and a half, right? Y'all can always go back and watch the video. Ezra chapter 9. Ezra chapter 9, we read in verses 1 through 2. So I get wrong chapter. Ezra chapter 9, verses 1 through 2. It says, "Now, when these things were done, the princes came to me, saying, the people of Israel and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the people of the lands, doing according to their abominations, even of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, the Ammonites, the Moabites, the Egyptians, and the Amorites. For they have taken of their daughters for themselves and for their sons, so that the holy seed have mingled themselves with the people of those lands. Yeah, the hand of the princes and rulers had been chief in this trespass." It was a sin to marry outside of the nation of Yasharal. Sirach chapter 13. Sirach chapter 13. Right? We're going to read verses 15 through 18. Sirach chapter 13, verses 15 through 18. It says, "Every beast loveth his like, and every man loveth his neighbor. All flesh consorteth according to kind," meaning all flesh should be dealing with their kind. For example, let's use dogs. A pit bull should be with a pit bull. A pit bull shouldn't be with a cane corso. The cane corso shouldn't be with a Rottweiler. A Rottweiler should be with a Rottweiler. A cane corso should be with a cane corso. A pit bull should be with a pit bull. Golden retriever with a golden retriever. Israel with Israel. Edom with Edom. Moab with Moab. Sirach 13 and 16. All flesh consorteth according to kind. When the Most High was creating everything in the beginning, he said he created things according to their kind. And a man will cleave to his like. Or at least this is what's supposed to happen. Verse 17. What fellowship hath the wolf with the lamb? So the sinner with the godly. What agreement is there between the hyena and the dog? Two different kinds. And what peace between the rich and the poor? Two different kinds. So we have to understand that Ruth was not a Moabite at all. She dwelt in the plains of Moab. Therefore, she was referenced as a Moabitess due to where she sojourned. Go back, look at the maps, go back, rewatch this video when it's over, or rewind it now and look at and pull up maps. Meditate on these scriptures. It's there, right? Ruth chapter 3. Oh shoot, I'm right here. I can just go this way. Ruth chapter 3. Ruth chapter 3, and we read in verse 2, right? It says, then, so like that. Ruth chapter 3, verse 2. And now is not Boaz of our kindred, with whose maidens thou wast? Behold, he winnoweth barley tonight in the threshing floor, right? And now is not Boaz of our kindred? Keyword, kindred. Naomi telling this to Ruth, right? So from there, let's go to the book of Tobit, chapter 6. The book of Tobit, right? We read chapter 6, verse 15. It says, then the angel said unto him, doest thou not remember the precepts which thy father gave thee, that thou shouldest marry a wife of thy own kindred, of thy own kind, of thy own people? As you can see, the word kind is in there. Wherefore hear me, O my brother, for she shall be given thee to wife, and make thou no reckoning of the evil spirit, for this same night shall she be given thee in marriage. Y'all with me? Tobit chapter 4. Tobit chapter 4, verse 12. It says, beware of all whoredom, my son, and chiefly take a wife of the seed of thy fathers, and take not a strange woman to wife, which is not of thy father's tribe, for we are the children of the prophets, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Remember, my son, that our fathers from the beginning, even that they all married wives of their own kindred and were blessed in their children, and their seed shall inherit the land. Right? So remember this. Ruth chapter 4. Ruth chapter 4. I'm going through this quick because I know I'm running a lot of time right now. Ruth chapter 4. Verses 10 through 13. It says, because that alms doth deliver from Salakia. I'm on the wrong one. Ruth chapter 4, verses 10 through 13. It says, moreover, Ruth, the Moabitess, the wife of Milan, have I purchased to be my wife, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance, that the name of the dead be not cut off from among his brethren, and from the gate of his place ye are witnesses this day. And all the people that were in the gate and the elders said, we are witnesses. Yahweh will make the woman that is come into thine house like Rachel, and like Leah, which two did build the house of Israel, and do thou worthily in Ephrathah, and be famous in Bethlehem. And let thy house be like the house of Pharez, whom Tamar bare unto Judah, of the seed which Yahweh shall give thee of this young woman. So Boaz took Ruth, and she was his wife. And when he went in unto her, Yahweh gave her conception, and she bare a son. Do you think that Boaz would have did this with a Moabite, knowing that he would have been in sin? He wouldn't have. He wouldn't have. Right? Now I got a lot more. Okay, I have a whole lot more, but I'm gonna speed this up, right? And I'm going to show you like 4 or 6 more scriptures, right? Let's go somewhere. Deuteronomy chapter 23, verses 2 through 6. It says, a bastard shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. Even to his 10th generation shall he not enter into the congregation of the Lord. What is a bastard? A bastard can mean anything. Married out of children, born out of wedlock, and incest. Didn't Lot's daughters get him so drunk that they had children by their own father? Those would be bastard children. Right? Verse 3. An Ammonite, as you can see, the context is talking about bastard children can't enter into the congregation of the Most High to the 10th generation. Verse 3. An Ammonite or Moabite shall not enter into the congregation of Yahweh, even to their 10th generation shall they not enter into the congregation of the Lord forever. So if I'm still trying to figure out, how could Ruth possibly be a Moabite if this law is and come on, it's clear. Verse 4, because they met you with not bread and water in the way when ye came forth out of Egypt, and because they hired against thee Balaam, the son of Beor of Pethor, Mesopotamia, to curse thee. Nevertheless, Yahweh thy Elohim would not hearken unto Balaam, but Yahweh thy God turned the curse into a blessing unto thee, because the Most High loved thee. Thou shalt not seek their peace nor their prosperity all thy days forever. You think Boaz would have been doing what he was doing, letting Ruth glean in his field, knowing in him being a righteous man and a mighty man, knowing the laws? There, I mean, come on. It wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened. Nehemiah chapter 13. Right? Back to Nehemiah chapter 13. Nehemiah chapter 13, we're gonna read verses 1 through 3. On that day, they read in the book of Moses in the audience of the people, and therein was found written that the Ammonite and the Moabite should not come into the congregation of God forever, because they met not the children of Israel with bread and with water, but hired Balaam against them, that he should curse them. Howbeit our God turned the curse into a blessing. Now it came to pass, when they had heard the law, that they separated from Israel all the mixed multitude. So whenever you hear Ruth was a Moabitess, do not stumble over that. She was referred to being a Moabite based on where she sojourned. All right, I'm gonna show y'all one more thing. Right? I guess a whole lot, but this is what we're gonna do. Let's go back to Ruth. Ruth chapter 1, so likely. Ruth chapter 1, and we're going to read verses 19 through 22. Right? Ruth chapter 1, verses 19 through 22. It says, so they too went until they came to Bethlehem. And it came to pass, when they were come to Bethlehem, that all the city was moved about them. And they said, is this Naomi? And she said unto them, call me not Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty have dealt very bitterly with me. I went out full, and Yahweh hath brought me home again empty, meaning that they were poor. Why then call ye me Naomi, seeing Yahweh hath testified against me, and the Almighty hath afflicted me? So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, with her, which returned out of the country of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem in the beginning of the barley harvest. Right? They were poor going back to Bethlehem, Judah. So with that being said, let's go to Ruth chapter 2, right? Ruth chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. And Naomi had a kinsman of her husband's, a mighty man of wealth of the family of Elimelech, and his name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabitess said unto Naomi, let me now go to the field and glean ears of corn after him, in whose sight I shall find grace. Why is she doing this? It's multiple reasons why. And she said unto her, go, my daughter. And she went and came and gleaned in the field after the reapers, and her hap was too light on a part of the field belonging unto Boaz, who was of the kindred of Elimelech. She was gleaning. Remember that. She was gleaning in the field. Right? Watch. Remember this. And there's so many laws that Boaz and Ruth kept in those 4 chapters. Right? The book of Leviticus, chapter 19, verses 9 through 10. It says, and when ye reap the harvest of your land, remember they went back to Bethlehem, Judah during barley harvest. And when ye reap the harvest of your land, thou shalt not lowly reap the corners of thy field, neither shalt thou gather the gleanings of thy harvest, meaning that we can't gather every single thing, right? Verse 10, and thou shalt not glean thy vineyard, neither shalt thou gather every grape of thy vineyard. Thou shalt leave them for the poor and stranger. I am the Lord your God. So when we see Ruth gleaning, she was not only a stranger to Elimelech, even though he was kindred. She was not stranger coming from a distant land. But Boaz knew when they came into the city that they were poor, right? So that's the reason why he was following the law by letting her glean his crops. And there's, I think it's in Ruth, the 3rd chapter, where you can see him. He even told his servants not to bother her, right? So he was keeping his servants from vexing her, because obviously in this chapter, Leviticus 19:33, it says, and if a stranger sojourn with thee in your land, ye shall not vex him. So he was keeping his servants from doing that as well, turning them from iniquity, as the book of Malachi say, right? So I'm gonna end it there, y'all. I'm gonna end it there. I hope the class was edifying. Let me go ahead and check the comments. Hey, shalom, Akiyah, Bashem Yahushua Barakatah. All praises to the Most High in the name of Yahweh Shai. Man, Khan, all praises, man. The water for tuning in. Oh shoot, Salakia, Dawad. I was going back to back, Salakia. But the water, Rabah, for tuning in. Thank you greatly for watching. If you want the rest of the scriptures, or if you want all of them, you know, go ahead and email nocap144k at gmail.com. nocap144k at gmail.com. Let me go ahead and put it in the chat for you real quick so y'all can have it. Right? Y'all got to meditate on these things. You know, y'all have to medicate on these things. nocap144k at gmail.com. It's your brother Nechami, Ak Nechami from Nations and Kings and Priests, No Cap Cali section. All praises to the Most High in the name of Yahweh Shai. Shalom.